Let's talk about setting up image print for your Mimaki printer. After you run the installer, the last thing that's going to happen is image IP setup's going to launch and ask you to add your printer. So let's choose add printer, and the wizard's going to walk you through this process. I'm going to say continue. If you have your license number and your dongle number will show up at the top. Right now I don't have a dongle attached. I'm going to say install in demo mode and hit continue. We're going to be installing Image Print Black, and we need to go down to the bottom to Mimaki. We're just going to choose Mimaki in general at this point. We'll choose the printer later on in the process. We're going to be running as a host, meaning we're going to be processing and connecting to the printer from this machine. Hit continue, and here's where we're going to set our model. Currently, we support the 6042, 3042, JFX 200, 2513, and the 1213 series printers, both the EX and non-EX for the 2513. I'm running on a 6042. I'm going to select that right now and hit done. So the connection type shows up as Mimaki, and this is assuming that you're connected to the printer by USB. If you're connected via Ethernet, just select the printer here, right mouse click, and say switch how that printer is connected, and then you can enter your IP address at that point. And there's mine. I'm just going to click outside of the box, and that is it. We can exit IP setup, and we're ready to launch image print. So I'm going to launch image print now. And for a new install, before you do launch image print, you will need to copy your Mimaki profiles into our color folder. And our color folder is located in program data, color byte software, image print 64-bit, and the folder is called color. Just copy them loosely into the color folder before you launch image print. This way they will show up when you go to your media management over here in the dashboard and select Mimaki UV setup, and you'll be able to then select the resolution you wish to print at, and it will show you the available profiles for that resolution. Set that as well as any other parameters, hit apply, and then that becomes your active profile. The only other thing you need to set up is to tell image print what ink set you're using, and that's down here in the print quality settings. So you have your list of ink sets. I'm running light cyan, light magenta, white clear. So I'm going to choose white clear. Those of you who are running double white, double clear, you will also choose white clear. And for those running clear primer white white, that's down at the bottom over here. So choose the ink set that you're running, and that's important because the number of available channels used to do the fast texturing modes key off of that ink set. Because depending on the ink set will determine the number of channels available to print with at once. What we're going to do now is go into advanced, and if it comes up in simple mode, just simply switch to advanced mode at the top here, and we're just going to set up some general parameters. These settings here become your defaults. So whatever we set here when we bring an image onto the page and we go to our composite settings, those beginning things that we see in the composite settings are based on what we set here as our defaults in the advanced tab. So if I want, for example, always to have a white layer before my color layer and then a clear layer afterwards, I'll set it like this. If I don't want a clear layer, I'll set it like that. White defaults to 100%, clear defaults to 30. If you like to run your clear up higher than that, set it now to whatever that setting is, and then it'll be applied to each image, and can be changed image to image, but the defaults will be set for you. Next thing we want to do is set our fast texture mode. And again, we have two fast texture modes, one where you finish in white and one where it finishes in black. And this just saves time on how that print's going to be finished at the end. Right now I'm set to white. White is typically for, artwork, photographs, any raised things that are going to have color printed on top of them, for example. We're going to want to finish in white. That way we don't have to have as many layers of white to cover up before we put our color down. If we're doing black and white, hat patches, things like that, we want to finish in black. If we're doing black braille, whatnot, we would set that to black. That way it finishes in black, and there's less work to be done afterwards. In fact, if black is your final color, you wouldn't even need to run a color layer, because it will finish totally in black. Speed mode, you have quality and speed. Quality runs your white and your color layer separately. Speed mode runs white and color in one layer. I run as quality mode just because I like the way it cures that way. But that's a setting that you can choose for yourself. So I have my settings set. I'm going to say OK. And let's go ahead and bring in an image, and we'll see how those settings got applied to the image. So with an image on the screen, I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to go to composite settings, and I can see my white layer, color layer. That's what I set for my defaults, and all of these are set. Now I can change these independently for image to image, and we'll talk about that a little later, because each image on the page layout or bed of the printer, as it is, can all have its own settings. Even if you're doing texturing, each image can be textured to a different level, different height, can have all different settings, and they will all print at the same time. So that's a unique feature of image print. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm not going to set anything right now. I'm just going to show that. So again, we're going to right mouse click on this image, and we're going to go to AI Depth Mask, and it's going to load the AI Depth Mask menu. Now, the first time you do this, it's going to download the AI engine from our website. So you'll get a box that pops up, and it's going to have a progress. It's going to download because it runs locally. That only happens once. Once it's downloaded, from that point on, every time you launch it, it's going to launch and run locally. All right, so here's my AI Depth Mask, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my pedestal all the way up and my texture all the way off. What we're looking at here is a full pedestal, grayscale image, black, all throughout image print. In any texture procedure that you do, black is no ink. So pure black means there'll be no ink laid down, no texture building. The whiter it is, the more texture, or the higher from, the height that you set in the composite settings will reflect the whitest point in your image. So I can see now all of my grays. So this is figuring out everything from the background to the foreground and everything in between in that depth map. Now, as I bring in texture, we can see that texture applied to the image. And we'll zoom in so we can see that in more detail. So everything is photorealistic as the engine generates the texture. If I want some of this texture in the background, what I'm going to do is lower the pedestal. So again, these are things that you play with to get the level that you want. So now I have just a tiny bit of texture coming in the background. I have the texture for the actual flower. I get those settings where I want, and I just apply it. and the texture gets built immediately. So once that texture is built and applied to the image, we're going to do a right mouse click and go back to those composite settings now. And we can see that it created the emboss layer and it put the texture that we built in place. And we can see a little lock up here, and I'm going to hover over it, and it says when locked, passes increment in the multiple of the available ink channels used to build fast texture. This is what we talked about when we set our ink set setting. This will result in faster print times. So we'll watch what happens here. I'm set to 40, but if I go to the up arrow, it's going to jump to 48. So I have 8 ink channels available to build fast texture with my ink set, and it's using all 8. And now as I increment in 8s, it will do the 8 channels plus the number of overprints needed to equal the number of passes. And we can see next to the number of passes here, roughly how high that will be. And again, that height is set in millimeters, and it's based on a 600 by 900 print resolution. Lower resolutions lay down less ink, so that height will be lower for lower resolutions. The best resolution for building texture is 600 by 900, so we key everything off of that print resolution. So that's how that works. We set our height, and we then set the rest of the layers that we want. I have a white layer, color layer, and if I want to add a clear layer here, I hit the plus sign down here, go to my layers, hit clear, say OK, and now I can say I want that to be a gloss layer. If I've made a spot gloss layer, I can set that to file and then choose the file for it. And in some images types, you'll actually have an alpha channel, and you can set that to alpha, and it'll just exclude the alpha mask and just put clear ink down in the other areas of the image that aren't masked. In this case, I'm just going to say all gloss, and here again, I can come and individually set that gloss channel for each image. So I'll set that to where I want, and I'm going to hit OK. And now that image is ready to print. Now I can still resize this image and move it around on the page. And we'll talk about the page here right now. If I'm going to go up to my printer, I have my page size and I'm set to max bed area, but I can also change that and do user-defined media sizes, for example, and set those and save them. Page origin, lower right. Lower right's going to follow wherever you set the origin point on your printer. So for example, lower right now, even if I were to put this image all the way up here and hit print, if it's the only thing on the page, it's going to set this bottom right-hand corner to the X origin point that you've set on your printer. And so it really doesn't matter where the image is on the page. I do not have to move it down to the bottom right corner for it to print there. Now, if I want to, I can set my X origin point on the printer to 0, 0 and change this to page layout. And now you're working in WYSIWYG. So now whatever you see on the screen here, assuming you have media covering either custom media set size to the size of the media, or you have media covering the whole bed, everything's WYSIWYG. So wherever you put this image on the page or multiple images on the page, it's going to print exactly there. So this allows you, two different modes to work in. I personally like to work in page layout, especially when I'm doing a lot of different things, moving an image around, because I don't want to have to reset that origin point every single time I want to print. If I know I printed something down here and I want to just bring another image in and print up there, for example, I can bring that image in and set the size and placement of it. Get rid of the one I already printed, and then I know that one's going to print right there. So 2 different modes to lay out your images, but this gives you a quick overview on how to get started with image print for your Mimaki printer. And we'll have some other videos that dive into some of the other key features. So stay tuned for that.